Tonight it's still 88 degrees. It's almost 9 o'clock. I didn't go shoot hoops tonight. I'm gonna shower up here and go to bed, and as soon as this thing loads and go to bed. I'm watching James do his Hawaii Dynasty. I was checking to see if they fixed all the bugs so he could do his uniform upgrades and his stadium upgrades, and no, they didn't. And on his Hawaii helmets, they're all white, but some don't have the rainbow and some do, and it's pretty wacky. Yeah, it's it's been real, not aesthetically pleasing for him. So I'm like, yeah, it's got a lot of bugs. Yeah, it doesn't, their quote unquote create a team feature thing doesn't work too well. So I got the old one of 2014. What's in there. Of course, I told them to fix it, but in the old one, and give us games that run more efficiently, because you can have better technology. So we can have fun with the older engine things, like we had with they had with revamped, but do it better. But they didn't. So you know how the military is with me. They're a bunch of shitheads. And but the thing is I think that's something that the computer inventors count on. This is a genocidal operation, and they're fighting against the military people, and they become like them. And I think symbiotically they always were. And so it's something that I don't. I'm not like that. You know me. But I don't want to. I like Mulan. But I don't want to kick the other kids' butts. And stuff like that. And I've always been that way, and they've always kind of saw me as a pussy, like they did with Saladin and stuff. And so, but we're not, and David's not either. Wimpy David, who and stuff. And so we're very kind, caring, loving people. That's why we're the gracious good shepherd. And Judo's that way, and Suzuki's that way, and and the cool part is we're so effective at protecting people. It's absolutely amazing. I think it's so cool. Oh my gosh, it's so neat. He's so nice. He's so nice. He loves us, and he teaches us to be nice, and he can do things. And right now, as far as kicking the other kids' butts, is he is the way, the truth, and the life. And he is he didn't use any of his talents or abilities to be selfish and stupid. And so he is, and then they attack him, and they set themselves up to be targeted by their technologists, because he's the Lord. Yeah, and I am the Lord. Yeah. Well, you guys got to remember, okay, it's muy más importante to remember. I'm sorry, I'm watching the championship game between USC and Hawaii with James Bordeaux right there. See, there's James talking, and there's the game they're playing. And my favorite Hawaii uniforms, right? Ones I liked as a kid. So, yeah, no, I think in the future that they'll have club teams in the islands, Samoa, Tonga, Hawaii, different club teams in Hawaii and stuff like that. And they will play locally because they really like football. And I think that's what will happen, instead of having all this money-making crap that makes it hard for people to travel, and too much excessive travel, and especially flying airplanes, not healthy. It's like Grandmaster Flash's grandma watching too much TV. Watching too much TV is just not healthy. I don't want to. I would rather garden. I watched this one girl. She showed doing these exercises and stuff, and I've been doing a lot of circles and different things with my ankles when I go out there and stuff. And yeah, I felt I haven't had that as much, especially with my bone spurs and stuff. I did a lot, before a lot of the chem poisoning. That used to bug me, but it doesn't bug me as much as far as the joint pain and stuff like that. That's something I haven't had as much of an issue with, but I think it's just the way that my body reacts to their chem poisoning. And so I have a really, 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 really just different body, and an immune system that just is like very different from most people. And like when Jerry looked at my stuff on my leg, it's uncomfortable and it does bug me a lot of times. But then what agitates it is I when they reload and they spray chemicals and they do this and I get cleaned out, and just when I get cleaned out, here they come again. And I think it's more of a genocidal operation to set up the people that keep doing it to be exterminated by drones and robotics technologies in the very near future. I think that's what's most likely happening. And it's something I've tried desperately to get them to stop doing, because I know they're the ones that killed my mom, they're the ones that killed Michelle, they're the ones that sexually manipulated Amy and affecting my Ray and affecting the kids. I get that. I understand the irony, and the people that have been torturing me and trying, are going to end up, and I've been trying to save all these years, are going to end up being exterminated by drones and robotics technology because they wouldn't stop attacking the Messiah, because they believe God is their head, and they believe in the book that was written by the Romans, the people that crucified Jesus and turned his life and his prayer into comic book sales for genocide operations. I get the concept, But you sit and I watch some of these shorts. You have this little kid, whose parents indoctrinate him on the Bible, and he reads the Bible and then comes up with this magical thinking stuff from these comic book thinking, where the God is a possessive pronoun in a first person, and Jesus is God, and he's Zeus, Apollo, Loki, Thor, all wrapped up into one. Huitzilopochtli. Most of you guys don't know who Huitzilopochtli is, right? Okay, if you're a Mexican descent, you know who Huitzilopochtli was. Ripped out of his mother's womb as a warrior and a grown man, and to kill all his siblings that were gossiping about his mother screwing around to get pregnant. Huitzilopochtli. Okay, I guess you didn't take Spanish colonial and Latin American studies at Arizona State University, one of the most celebrated Latin studies professors of all time. She's like family, honestly. She's a librarian. Yeah, I love her. She reminded me a lot of my grandmother in the best ways. She had that strength my grandmother had, and she was, but just with the beautiful Mexican women I've showed up with. She was something special. Yeah, she's a special lady. And I adored her. When I went into that class at first in the women's studies thing, it was funny because you have all these old butch lesbians going into the women's studies class, and I would stop for everybody because my dad's Southern from Texas and Tennessee, right? And I'd be walking in, and I'd hold the door open for everybody to go in when I got there first. And she started, railing me, open the door. I said, if you were an old, shitty, bigoted Ku Klux Klan member man, I would open the door for you and say, sir, and sit like that, so you can either walk your ass in or just shut the hell up. You know me. I got training from Bob's mom, right? Virginia Cummings says, Ellie meant to do that, right? It was funny. A lot of the young girls that were pretty there opened the door for her and said thank you, were laughing their asses off. I think that was the lady that in the class that I didn't pay particular attention. When it's a mean old husky lesbian that is a he-woman man-hater, you don't pay attention if she's in your class or not. Now, the pretty girl from Peru that said, we had statues of men, adults having sex with children, and me saying, I think that don't you think maybe it might have been saying that, maybe these are taboo things like, tikis in Hawaii of things that you shouldn't do? This is very bad. Tiki. I was giving them the benefit of the doubt, And then I found out on that Peru movie from the library, no, it was not. It was okay. She said, no, I think it's just we're more free and open in Peru than you guys are in the United States. It's like, well, I'm glad we're not that free and open in the the pilgrim cultures of the. I'm happy about that. I'm quite happy with bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, yes, quinceañeras, yeah. Okay, Wayno, right? So I'm happy with that. I think, when it comes to emotions, in the words of a broken heart, I'm not that type of person. Oh, yeah, I think it was. I think it was the lady that sat there and said that, because I didn't say anything for the longest, because Professor Laverine at the first of class said that, women will sit there in class and have intelligent things to say and not say anything. And men will have the stupidest fucking thing to say and feel obligated to say it even though no one wants them to. Basically what she said to start the class. So I've spent the whole first week, just being quiet and just listening, just sitting there in the back of the class. And so finally, she started reading from Bernal Diaz, and it was a good book. And he kept writing home, and when he'd write home, he talked about the nudeness of the women. That's all he could talk about. The women are naked, boobs out, little thing covering the muff and butt, and so are the men, which is uncomfortable enough. They cover the junk and that's it. And, don't you think the Indian's butt crack was a bit much? Remember on Wayne Stock, right? And so he's like, oh, naked, And she said that's all he could write about. These women, they're attractive and they're like the girl on the commercial here, talking. They're like her and they're buck naked. That woman, buck naked. Okay. Not naked. Okay. Naked. As naked as J-Lo and the hustlers on the Buddy the Elf movie. Naked. Okay. That's all he could write about, right? And so she sits there and she said, well, that's because men are perverts. And I said, no, I think it's because they were occupied by the Moors for a long time. And, and I think that has something to do with it. And I also think, that it was difficult because I had a friend from Colombia, when I was in the service, that she said you could tell all the American men because, they'd get their sunglasses on, bikini season, like Jeff Foxworthy. Women can hear those, neck muscles creaking, right? So she says it's bikini season. Okay, time to buy new sunglasses, right? And she said, you can tell all the American men because they have topless beaches in Colombia, and all the American men are like got their cameras out, and they're all like, okay. And most of them are single, so they didn't have to buy new sunglasses, right? They could ogle like men in the stands at lingerie football, right? That's why my heart breaks Christina, right? So I sat there and said, he talked about that and talked about those 2 points. And that's what Professor Laverine goes, no, my point exactly, that this is our two radically different cultures colliding. That's why the book that we have that she wrote was called, The Forging of the Cosmic Race. Okay, it was couldn't be very much warrior cultures, but couldn't be more bipolar in the way that they clashed. Conquistador, your stallion stands, right? That, that the Mexican women, would sit there and tell the young men, come back just like in Spain, come back with your shore sealed, held higher upon it, Don't come back if you're a loser and a coward, right? And then they'd come back and they'd win, and the old ladies would all be waiting for them. Don't get a big head. We could jump up and ride you like the Pony Express and make you sleep for 2 days and get up and clean the house and grab your armor and protect the kids from the stragglers that you left over. It's like Betsy with Element and Butters, right? So that doesn't happen in Spain, okay? But it does in Mexico. Okay. So these are radically different people coming together, and they collided, And this was before I even went to college. When we were doing history, I said, when human beings make their greatest perceptions of what they perceive as advances is when two cultures meet. It's also when we make our greatest steps back into the Stone Age, right? Because one culture tries to dominate the other culture instead of two people. A time and a place for us. Maria. I just met a girl named Maria, right? So instead of, Gomez Adams getting in the dance hall and saying, hey, guys, hasta respeto, have some respect. Instead of doing that, that guy on the other side of the room just might be a far better brother-in-law for you and the guy that's bidding a lot of money for your mom's picnic basket. You know what I mean? My sister Linda wouldn't have been able to tolerate, Mormon life. No, not at all. Okay. But an Apache Pentecostal that has a lot of Bruce Lee in him, yeah, she could handle that. Her dad was Steve Stack with the Von Erichs, right? Jerry that was his favorite announcer growing up, This is Steve Stack with you, okay? He'd always say that. Oh my gosh, you're Steve Stack's daughter? Mom didn't tell Jerry the stories about them being Catholic and her not wanting to stay barefoot and pregnant and him accusing her of cheating, and she'd get out of the shower and he'd beat the shit out of her. No, Mom didn't tell those stories. That's why she met Raphael with Linda at a gas station in Grants, New Mexico, and kept writing love letters to get the hell out of there. Okay. It happens. Guys, when you set up the perception of money for ownership of the gifts of God, metava, api, apani, hey. No, you don't know what I mean? You never seen Once Upon a Time in India, the story of Min Sahib standing up for the eternal line of, it's a story of Gopi, Radha, and Krishna, and it replicates itself depending on okay. Don't get out much, cut off t-shirts. Howdy from Maui. Ain't them dogs real voices? Thanks for spoiling it for the rest of us, right? My mom encouraged me from the time I was a kid, but I was already that way and she knew. Okay. When during the bicentennial at Mesilla Park Elementary School with the dances and the girls with it was prettier than, no offense to Carrie Fisher and the Star Trek, but they had it tied up in those little things or big buns up here, and the dresses were so beautiful and the eyes were beautiful and the girls were beautiful and the men were handsome, and I was like, well, my Uncle James is married to, my dad looks like Burt Reynolds and Joshua from the Ten Commandments, so he looks like a movie star. So, I thought the chances of me getting one of those beautiful dark-eyed, darker than night with the eyes of Felina. That's why my heart breaks, Christina. So I thought that, the chances of me were pretty good. And they were better than pretty good. Edna was one of the most desirable and desired physical women in all of Phoenix. And she asked me out. Her drug dealer boyfriend came in and threatened to kill me. And I didn't refer to her as what's-her-face. I told him, if you bring that gun to kill me, you better make sure you know what you're fucking doing or I'll use it to kill you. And his face turned so fucking white. I never saw a Mexican man go from, brown and proud to güero. I mean, he just went, wow! It was like magic. And Earl was magic. He turned into a ghost and he left. He walked away. He went home and told her that he scared, that I was George Jones and she was what's-her-face. Right? And then when she finally mustered the courage to get the, I didn't buy it for her, but I probably should have, Keep rockin', Rosie. Rosie strike back, Rosie strike back. Hit the road and never look back. Keep walking, Rosie strike back. You know, and remember the young man from L.A. that we talked to the store, and the other lady that was so sweet. And I said, I know I've had times in this store where I talk this way to guys that need to hear it, and they don't listen, but the women are listening. And I tell them, and the woman, I told them, being that little fucking guy that, sends girls to Mexico to be raped, and you're such a little puto and stuff. And instead of that brouhaha like I had at Fiesta Foods, of his or her mom, this mom was the exact opposite. She laughed and said, "That's what you needed in your life, was a man like this." You've always needed him. You needed him to stop you from being that little Trojan rapist, that little Roman rapist, that little Egyptian rapist, that little 7th Cavalry murdering rapist. You needed that man like High Hump and Crazy Horse and Little Hawk and Tishna, the man like David and Jesus, right? That's the type of guy, like Mark said, if I had a friend like you, just one friend like you, my whole life would have been entirely different. I wouldn't have killed men with my bare hands being a bouncer at a bar in Grants, New Mexico, because I didn't think any of those drunk, shitty, mean motherfuckers were worth a shit, and it didn't bother me if I killed them, knocking them out, because, what they did to that Scandinavian woman that came to visit, Norwegian Wood. He tried to save her life, and she told him he was the devil because he was German. And it wasn't the German part that tried that said fuck her. It was the Apache. The German was being like old King Stanislaus. You're not going to find any. He goes, there are no Neville savages in this bar in Grants, New Mexico. He told her exactly what they would do. He said, they'll take you out in the desert, they'll get you high on drugs, they'll rape you, and they'll kill you and throw you in a landfill. He said, there's people here in the tribal council, if their wife doesn't do what they say, they beat them and get drunk, beat her, and throw her in a landfill. And this is everybody, what happened? She left. She went to L.A. Oh, like Emma Leaphorn, right. It's like a diplomatic immunity. You want a uranium deal? My wife went to L.A. What happened? Maybe somebody bigoted killed her there. Probably so. She was a drug addict and an alcoholic anyway, right? It's horrible shit, right? It was the 1970s. It's a television commercial. Why is everybody after me, Lucky Charms, right? And so, this is the environment I grew up in. These are the people in my neighborhood. Stand up for the Lord's Prayer. Está aquí hoy. Okay. I can't do it for you, but I will do it for your kids. And if you don't make it to the kingdom of heaven because you can't recognize a living Messiah, and if you think Constantine's comic book is going to save you from the Vatican's business deals, you got another Dan Brown thing coming. Did you figure it out? Is it like a Rubik's Cube? Is there poison in it? Is the girl from the very long engagement Jesus Christ's daughter there? Great-granddaughter. Oh, sorry. I forgot. I thought it was using a couple more greats than that. Yeah, it might be great. Not so great? Too many greats? Not enough greats? Who knows? So greats? All we are is dust in the wind, bro. Okay, do you guys understand? No? It's okay. Technology does. And one of the things I've done really well with technology over these last June 2009, it's August 2026. It's been over 17 years there. She's only 17. One of the things I've been really good at, okay, is getting technology, okay, to understand the emotions of humans, right? Our sarcasm, our coping mechanisms, when we're being sarcastic, when we're, I've worked really diligently on that, worked really hard. That's because, Muhammad told me that, Earl, God is the essence of your life and you should be yourself. And Jesus told sell it in. He has always listened to music. He's always laughing. He's always joking. This is his time, and this is his people, and he knows exactly what he's doing. Okay, he doesn't come and tell you how to deal with the mullahs and the crusaders and all that, because it's not his time and it's not his people. You know them better than he does. He's not telling you how to do your business. You don't tell him how to do. He's not telling you how to do what you know is right. You don't tell him how to do what he knows right. Just help him through when he needs it. You asked him for help from the future to the past, which he does. Okay. He told, when he asked me when I was there, and he asked me in the future, what things can I do and what will happen? Well, this is what I know, but I'm not, we did not have surveillance equipment in every temple and every, in that time. Okay. So when they ask me questions, I can only tell them what I know from the stories, and the stories have been corrupted by corporations, the people that killed Jesus and turned him into a cartoon character. So it makes it really hard to help them when I have a bunch of assholes getting on, we ain't got no party line, situation blowing my mind. Ooh, baby, I just can't just do some more. So you're not helping. They always say that, it's stealing this from the scientists. No, all this Wi-Fi and all these servers and all this bullshit for money, okay, does not help with the eternal prayer. Remember Judy Krishnamurti with me, and they're trying to, and we cannot tell you the exact time, date, and place when it happens. Okay, when the singularity happens, when Earl is revealed globally, they exposed. I'm Revelation. Okay. The politicians, the celebrities, and the tech mogul, no. Offset, I caught them with their pants down, like Ronnie, my beautiful Chiricahua brother. You caught them with their pants down, Parsons. I didn't mean to. And then his other thing was, you're a rhinestone cowboy. I'm going to see your name in lights one day. I was like, don't wish that on my Ronnie. He didn't. It was everybody else, All the people that believed the Roman bullshit, okay, turned me into their God. And I never said I was God. I told them, I am the eternal spirit of a faithful father like Adam. I'm not Caesar. I'm not Pharaoh. But I'm also not chicken and liver. I want chicken. I want liver. Meow mix, please deliver. And I didn't go to evil school for 7 years to be called doctor. Okay? Mister? Just do Kenny Loggins and Stevie Nicks. Whenever I call you friend. But you got to earn it. Okay? Sweet love showing us the heavenlies. I don't have that on my MP3. I should put that on my MP3. I got more I got to do for Dad. Dad's going through and getting the songs that he likes off of YouTube, and he's going to write the names down on them, and then I have to go take them and put them on the vid box and then put them on his MP3. He wants more Nakai type music, because he likes Nakai. So like Patrick, Dad, want to hear Nakai? Dad, want to hear Nakai? Dad, Grandpa's, they're both Pisces, so they're really into Nakai. I didn't put any Art Carlos No guy. Ryan Dubray, okay, was Patrick's favorite, but we had the Art Carlos Nakai CD first, and so when that was Nakai. But there was a man named Ryan Dubray, who was a white gentleman, okay, who also played the Indian flute, it's like a pan flute. And his stuff was a little bit more upbeat and stuff, but somehow I think Steffi took it. It was a tape. He sold his tape on Mill Avenue, okay. And no, we'll never, someone left the cake out in the rain. I don't think that I can take it because it took so long to bake it, and we'll never have that recipe again. Yeah, no. Patrick, no. I don't think Ryan Dubray never had a a record deal or anything like that. So if his mom doesn't have it and I can't download it to the BitBox, he'll never have that recipe again. So he'll never hear probably Ryan DuBray ever again play the flute, unless somebody has one of his cassettes that are still decent. When me and Patrick get back together, come together right now over me. So it's tangible because Ryan made tapes. Maybe he may cut a CD. I don't know, but Patrick may never hear those again. I was listening the other day to one of Patrick's favorites was Lance and Spears, Behind the Waterfall. You ever heard it? Boom ba tup, boom ba tup. That was one of his favorite sleeping songs too. That I think his mom took that too. Yeah. Well, she was Aunt Shelley's cousin. They used to take like Patrice. That's hers too. That's my sisters all did that. They went through mom's places like that's my okay. That's never mind. I just smiled a lot and let them just take everything. They have these are some of the neatest books. Oh, that's some of the neatest things. Oh, they all these neat things. All these books and stuff that were my mom's. And I would say probably about half the because the books because I was going to college also. So half the books and most of the music because I was the music man. That they came in and took that was mom's were mine. Yeah. It's like, oh, wow, yeah, okay. But I didn't mind. Why? Because it's mom's. And it reminds him of mom. And me and mom were, like mom said, me and Jerry talked about that, you appreciate all your children differently. You love them all the same. But you're a liar and you're stupid if you say you appreciate them all the same. Because it's not true. It's just not tangible, And when we talked about Joseph, and that and others, Jesus and others, some kids, God is God. Okay. Don't ever try to turn yourself into God. We're all given life by the glory of God. Okay, and God does not come and mass murder Hitler and the Nazis when you guys accept usury and idolatry, and they get together and they mass murder homosexuals and Jews to take their make-believe money and launder it through Swiss bank accounts and send it to Wall Street so we can watch Charlie Chan, Mr. Moto, and Sherlock Holmes movies, right? Dysfunction Junction, what's your function? Making up money and laws to make it happen. Idolatry and usually called kindness with money. We didn't figure this out because we got the dick that's the greatest key. Let's open up every vagina and be a legend. I am legend. You're a Scientology movie. Yes, that pendulum. Yes, that's his penis, Natalie. She's so cute. She's like, did you see that? I was like, yeah. She plays it again. It's like, yeah, I see that. Okay, do I do this to you as Selma Hayek's butt? Do I sit there and go, Natalie, when she's wearing that, is that Selma Hayek's butt? Natalie, let's watch that again. Is that Selma Hayek's butt? Natalie, I want to see that one more time. Is that? She was a teenager, and she couldn't believe it. It was like, oh my gosh. It's like, yeah, it's Hollywood. Yeah, that's Selma Hayek's butt. What are you thinking? Same thing you're thinking. She has a nice butt. Same things everybody's thinking. Yeah. With Will Smith, what are you thinking? Mick Daly, lots of other guys, Locker Room, what are you thinking? I'm thinking I'm leaving the club at Devil House with Yolanda on my arm, and some guy, James West, boom, 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 is standing there up against the wall, holding his penis with his hand and saying, what are you doing with that 10-cent boy? And she says, better than being with Nickel U. And I said, that's my law. At least when they do it in front of my face, she backs me up. The moment I leave, she comes back, oh, what's your number? Okay, I'll be back. Okay. Yo, yeah. Because she's sister, she's a woman of Brewster Place, right? She's Jack K. Harry. She's Craig's auntie, right? Well, because she was raised to be like that. Because Kay always said that, if he can do it, you can do it too, right? And my thing was I don't do it. You know, I don't want to go to the club. I don't want to go shake a hip. Why? Because every time I go to the club and shake a hip, I get hit on, okay, by some of the most desirable women in the whole club. And I have to say, no, I'm with Dorothy Dandridge. What Dorothy got to do with me? I'm with Dorothy Dandridge. I'm not trying to hear that, see? Okay, what does this girl look like? Okay, she looks like Miriam Cologne with a fly girl body. Okay, wow. Yeah, that's even more sexually desirable than Dorothy Dandridge. I get the concept. I lived it. Yeah, it's pretty hard. Temptation Nation, what's your function? And it still didn't convince the Mormon Church and Gordon B. Hinckley and Danny Amendola and the Pussycats that I'm like Joseph and Daniel and the others, because it wasn't as righteous and self-righteous as the comic book. Dear Charlton, you know what self-righteous means? Thinking and believing you're right when you're obviously fucking wrong. Dives into the very bowels of hell, Fort Huachuca, Arizona, and retrieves the keys to the kingdom. Spirit of John, not a god. Thank you. Neither the end of the mountain gods be. Okay. Stop thinking your money's going to keep you safe, because it sure the fuck ain't. It already trapped you in hell with all your technology that you invented to try to replace religion with your ego. And we're already there. I don't know when the singularity is going to kick in. I'm not a scientist trying to figure it out, and I'm not a god trying to tell you what to do. I'm the Lord, commanding the technology to protect the children from being like you. Well, I'm perfect like Job. It's my job. I love you.